Hey Sarah, can I admit something to you?
Absolutely.
I hate websites for like pet boarding places.
Really, I feel like that's so oddly specific.
It
Why?
is like today we're gonna be talking about websites and branding and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, I was coming up with things in my head. I was like, well, like what is the worst example of websites that I've seen? And I think in my life, every time I try to like try a new pet boarding place, the website somehow gets worse. Like as I go through the places.
Technology has gotten better. It's gotten more user friendly, easier than ever to build a website, but pet boarding has continued to decline.
So I personally think that they are hiring the dogs that they're boarding to do the websites, and they are this bad. And I know people out there who are watching this or listening to this know this. Like if you've boarded an animal and done like the self checkout, it's like almost like writing legislation. Like
It takes so long.
it
It's
takes
broken.
so it's so long. It's like, do you have the most accurate, like made up vaccine for your dog? Like
Yes.
no, I don't know what like Borden milk Tetella is. I don't know what that is. But yeah, of course my dog has it, but I'm just saying like no, I'm not gonna. I don't know. Anyway, so I've noticed that there is a lot of room for innovation in that industry, and not unlike home improvement, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and we've all seen, we all have buddies who have websites. They're like, I did this in 15 minutes and it's great. And it's like, well, there are some,
There's room for improvement,
there's some room
always.
for improvement,
And
but
I mean, it's important to even have a website. I think like step one is even building that. And then maybe spending more than 15 minutes on it is a good first step. Absolutely.
yeah,
But
I mean, it's one thing to do it yourself or like hiring someone in your family to update the website for you whenever you need it updated. But I think like if you're growth minded, right? If you're a growth minded contractor or you have a growth minded organization that you're at the head of, I think it behooves you. Animal theme. It behooves you to spend more time working on it. And we'll talk to Ben about this. Ben is the founder and owner and operator of the Contractor Growth System. He helps contractors just completely transform their brand, their website. He helps them, not just generate the leads, which is, I think, important, obviously for all of us, but he gets them ready to convert. And I think that's really like where the secret sauce is for growth. We are so excited for this conversation with Ben. If you want to check him out, it's contractorgrowthsystem.com. Ben is brilliant. He understands contractors, and so we can't wait for you guys to hear this conversation. So here we go.
Awesome, Ben. Well, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. And I guess we'll go ahead and just get started. If you could tell us, Ben, a little bit about yourself, tell us about Contractor Growth Systems, and then really just your experience working, with home improvement pros. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys both, first off, for having me on here. Super excited to be here. We started our business, actually, my wife and I, about 6 years ago now. And when we first started the business, we were helping all types of local businesses. We were helping restaurants, we were helping auto dealers, helping a lot of different types of businesses. But more specifically, we started helping a couple local contractors who were struggling financially, struggling to get over that hump. They had some solid amount of referrals and customers coming through just based off the work they had been doing. But when it came to marketing or it came to growing their business, they really struggled. So we really came into their business, helped them set up some systems, marketing, sales systems that helped them get solid lead flow coming through and really help them grow their businesses. And from there, we decided, we need to specialize more and not just work with everybody. We really believe in the jack of all trades is a master of none philosophy. And so we really zoned in the construction space, and we've been helping them ever since. So like I said, about 6 years ago now, we're based out of Des Moines, Iowa. And we love helping contractors grow their business.
That's awesome. Well, so what were you doing before you went solo? I'll call it go solo. Like, what's your marketing experience? Like, I guess we can get some context on like where you come from, right? Because so like if I say I'm in marketing, I'm more of a creative guy, so I'm not gonna be able to like build a lead flow for you, but I'd be able to help you with your branding. So like, Ben, where's your experience from?
Yeah, for sure. So I started my sales career actually with a full service advertising agency for auto dealers. So that's where I dove into marketing and advertising. Before that, I didn't have a ton of marketing experience, right? So when I started working with that company, I realized how marketing, advertising, we were doing a lot of direct mail at the time, how it was having a major impact on these businesses, on these car dealers, right? They were selling a ton of vehicles based off of a campaign that we would run for them. And so that's when things clicked. And so after a while working with them, I realized there's a lot of businesses out there who need help, not only with, traditional forms of advertising like direct mail and radio, but really online. Social media was starting to become more prevalent. And so we really zoned in on the digital space. And for us, our big focus is lead generation or conversion, right? So like you said, there's multiple facets behind what you can do for a business when it comes to marketing, whether it's brands, lead generation, web design, right? So we really focus in on the lead generation space. So yeah, that's kind of the background behind that.
And lead generation at the core of it, is the heart, I think. And especially when we think about home improvement, like lead generation is really core to pretty much everything else. It's kind of like the core engine that keeps these guys going. And I really like what you touched on, where I hear this all the time. It's like a contractor's 2 years in business. They had a really successful first 2 years. They did all this work for their friends and family, their friends and families. And then after that, they have, pretty good cash flow, but they don't know how to start that engine, how to actually like begin that process. So I think like having an understanding that as a business, when you get there, you can actually call someone and be like, oh, okay, like what next is important, and turn to someone who knows that. Or as Dago said, like Dago would be an expert in like the branding piece, and turn to someone who has more expertise than yourself.
And it's like one thing to rely on word of mouth, like, because we hear that a lot at Hearth, right? When on the conversations that we have, it's like, oh, like, I don't need to do X, Y, and Z. I have word of mouth. I have referral. But it's, why have only like one or two channels, and why not just like diversify as much as you can, right? Maybe it's you can't handle that many jobs, but I think it's nicer to turn down work rather than not have enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where we saw the biggest challenge was a lot of the contractors that we were working with. They were doing an amazing job for homeowners. Their work was spectacular, beautiful work. But when it came to presenting that or putting that in front of the types of homeowners they want to work with, they were absolutely failing. A lot of them didn't even have a website, for instance, right? Or any social media platforms. They were doing a couple million in annual revenue and doing a great job, but it was all word of mouth. And a lot of times, when things fluctuate, that can turn into a little bit of a roller coaster for your business, because when you're relying on other people who will randomly refer you, you don't have that control that you're looking for in your business. And so we saw the challenge that, and specifically in the construction space, where even if they were marketing or positioning their business in front of homeowners, it was a lot about themselves. And I know we were going to talk a little bit about brand story today and messaging. It was a lot about themselves and why they're the best. And it wasn't about the problems that they're actually solving for homeowners and how they can help homeowners solve those problems in a unique way, which they were already doing a great job of. They just didn't know how to position themselves that way.
How could they like best do that, right? Like, and I guess that leads us to like our next question is, like, how can a contractor best tell that story about the experience of working with them, right? Or of like what they can deliver for you, like how I can change your life, or I can educate you, or I can, X, Y, and Z. Like how do you think they should go about that? Or, is there some kind of secret sauce formula?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think it all starts with understanding first off, understanding who your ideal customer is. So knowing who is the type of homeowner that we help, right? There's a lot of different types of people out there. a lot of different types of homeowners. And so a lot of contractors, they try to market to everybody, but everybody is unique and every situation is unique, and you don't necessarily want to be working with everybody. And so you need to understand who that ideal homeowner is. And then from there, you'll really start to understand what are the problems they're dealing with in their home. Like what would even cause them to consider to do a renovation project or reach out to a remodeler in the first place. And the reason they would do that is because they solve the specific problem that they're dealing with at home. So to answer your question, it's really about understanding your customers, your ideal customers' problems, and then being able to position yourself as the best solution to that problem in your market there.
And I think that goes back to kind of the idea that you were even saying when you guys were thinking about your business, like jack of all trades, master of none. I think something I see a lot of construction businesses do in the home improvement space is we can handle anything in your house: flooring, decks, siding, windows. But then because they handle everything, they really don't have an idea of who their ideal client is and when they need to actually take on that work.
I was going to say, I have a little bit of an example of that. So as you know, I'm a homeowner. I bring it up on my on the podcast all the time. I had tree work done again. And but it was funny because like I only know this guy as a tree guy, right? And I was just talking to him, and then I was like, hey, do you know anyone who can do concrete work? Because I have a guy that I know just down the street who needs like a new patio installed or something. He was like, oh no, I can do that. I'm like, oh, okay, you can? And he's like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, what else do you do? And he was like, literally anything. But he wouldn't have had that conversation with me if he wasn't just a tree guy who was going around doing trees. And he wouldn't have gotten into that conversation with me. Because like if I was just looking for like, I don't know, just like a general whatever, like he wouldn't have been differentiated to me or whatever. You know what I mean? I was kind of impressed by that like he was just like, I'm gonna be a tree guy. I'm gonna be a landscaper. Even though I can do anything. I took him in my backyard and I was like, hey, can I like add an extension to this thing, to this part of my house? He's like, oh yeah, I can do that. I'm like, really? And he's like, oh no, yeah, like I just have the guys. Like we'll just do it, you know. And you know, and I was just like, this is incredible. And you know, I don't really know where I'm going with this story, but I thought it was really, really wonderful for him that he had that kind of that focus, like that tree, I'm a tree guy focus, but I can do anything. And now he has a relationship with me where like I know that he is someone that I can go to handle all of these other kinds of things. And even if he can't do it, he can show me someone who can. So anyway, just an anecdote, but the specializing thing is very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's a great story. And for me, it's like, if you just think about how the sales process takes place now, right? When a homeowner needs, like you said, landscaping done, they need a tree removed from their home. When they go to Google or Bing or whatever search engine they're using to figure out what's available to them, they're not looking for a generalist. Like when you're looking for a tree removal company, when you type in tree removal companies near me on Google and someone says, you know, we do all types of landscaping, this or that, and it's very general. And then there's another company that says we specialize in removing trees from your backyard, those painful, pesky trees or whatever. Who are you going to choose, right? You're going to choose the company who solves the specific problem that you're dealing with. But then the cool thing, like you said, is you can be good at more than one thing. But when you position yourself that way, you just kind of become a commodity. And you're becoming more and more of a commodity in this day and age where everybody has access to the internet in 3 seconds, right? We all have a phone, we have a computer, so we can do our research in no time. And so you really need to position yourself at what your specialty is and what problem you're actually solving for those homeowners.
That makes so much sense. Because then I think about even in my own, professional life, when I'm looking for someone who can help me with something, I'm going to go to the website that's most specific and most targeted to that help. And as we're thinking about like building your brand story as a home improvement contractor and really like finding homeowner pain and building your services around that, how have you seen contractors and how do you guys recommend contractors do that best on their website? The website's really become a landing page for these guys and it builds credibility for them. It builds homeowner trust. How can people best kind of build their website to make sure that they're articulating the value of their services to the homeowners?
Definitely. Another great question. there's a lot of ways to go about building a website that converts, right? But I think, again, the first thing one of the best ways to answer this question, I think, is by drawing a comparison. So when you think about, let's just say, a kitchen and bathroom remodeling company, if you think about, again, the homeowner who's looking for this kitchen and bathroom remodeling service, they're tired of their outdated living space. They can't have their family over. They're not happy with their kitchen. So they go to Google, and one website they go to says, #1 remodeler in Austin, Texas. And that's all it says. And then right below that, it says, contact us, right? And then the next website they go to says, we help homeowners in Austin, Texas, transform their outdated living space into a space they love, right? Or something along those lines, where it speaks to the problem the homeowner is dealing with. Which one do you think that homeowner is going to choose to at least reach out to first, right? So,
Number two, no question. Yeah.
Yep. So it all starts with speaking to the problem that you're solving for that homeowner on your website. Typically, in the first 5 seconds, a homeowner lands on a website, you have 5 seconds to answer really 3 questions. The average American has like a 7-second attention span. And so if you don't answer the questions of who are you, what do you do, how is it going to make my life better, solve my problems, and how can I simply start working with you or hire you? If you don't answer those questions very quickly, we're just going to bounce on to the next website. And so by speaking to their problems or their pain points, you immediately hook them and capture their attention, so then they can continue to work through your website. And so we use a couple different frameworks when we're building sites for contractors, and it really always starts with what the customer or the homeowner wants, speaking to that problem, and then positioning that contractor as the ultimate solution to that problem, a unique solution to the problems they're dealing with at home. And then we go into a couple other things like clarifying their process, simplifying the process of working with the contractor and what that process looks like, why it's unique and simple. But again, ultimately, it all comes down to how can we get more clear about the types of problems the homeowners that we're working with are dealing with, and how can we position those on our website to hook the homeowner into our story, bring them into our story.
How would you feel about like calling that like functional versus aspirational? So this is something as like a brand, experience or whatever that I've had. It's like there's a difference between like we can solve your problem today versus we can get you the thing that you really, really want or that you're dreaming about. And I think, some contractors get roped into situations where they're doing emergency work or repairs, but there's still that underlying, like, I can still sell you like a dream project, even in a horrible situation, right? Imagine like walking into, so like a HVAC system last year went out on my house, went into a situation where I'm like, I just need an HVAC system, dude. Like, I don't really care what it is. It's 95 to 100 degrees out every day. I'm dying here. It's been a week. But the guy was like, hey, like, for just like X amount more, I can actually get you a bigger unit that blows colder air. We can do like this kind of different type of like, duct system. Like, they were upselling me, but they were upselling me something I was just like, I am in hell and I just want this done. But also I have the opportunity to get like a nicer system for my house for not that much more. And I just got upsold, right? And so I think, and back to just the marketing part, there's that, like, I can give, like, yeah, great. You can find anyone like me anywhere on the internet. You're absolutely correct, Ben. But like, how can I sell you a dream, or how can I sell you like the thing that you really, really want, right? Yeah. So I think that's crucial. I think that's something that we lose because, tradespeople or business owners or like even marketing people can be very transactional, right? Like, you give me money, I remodel. Mm-hmm. That's how it's going to go. Yeah. But yeah. I think you're right on with like, like you do that. If you can kind of sell them a vision, it's like so much easier, and you can upsell. Like, I think that's like a big part of it too. Yeah. And I think a huge part of this that we haven't really touched on yet is the simplicity or the clarity in your messaging. I think, because yes, speaking to the transformation or what
ideal transformation looks like for the homeowner and how it solves their problem is great. But if you're showing them that with like cute and clever languaging, or you're using like cute and clever languaging that's just confusing homeowners really what you're actually doing for them, that's the first sign they're just going to bounce off your website, right? They're going to leave immediately, which leads to like the 98% bounce rates that the majority of websites are seeing.
Yep.
But when you can speak to that transformation that you're talking about, or how you solve that problem very clearly and very simple, then that's when you invite them into that story, and they're going to interact with you on your website or take that call to action that you've positioned there for them.
How do you feel about pictures versus video? Because I'm like, who's going to click on it? Sometimes I'm like, who's going to click on a video? They just want to see pictures. But how do you feel about the two?
Yeah, so video is obviously a big wave right now, but I think it really has to do with how there's a lot that goes into, is the video actually going to convert? Like, what does the production look like? What is the framework they're using to actually make that video convert? Where pictures can tell 1,000 words. And for instance, one big thing we do with websites or landing pages when we're building them, that first header that you land on above the scroll on the website, using a picture that shows the ideal customer in the after state, after the transformation. So for instance, like a kitchen and bathroom remodeling website, when the homeowner lands on that website, it's always great to have an image of a family or your ideal homeowners sitting in their newly remodeled kitchen, laughing or toasting to a glass of wine, or something along those lines that really puts your ideal homeowner in that state of mind. So they're immediately like psychologically anchoring to, wow, if I work with this company, look what we can have as a family here in our own kitchen, the memories we can create, and all of those things start going through your mind. And so both video and pictures are very powerful. I just think there's a lot more that goes into video to actually make it work and convert, where with pictures, if you can use the right pictures, then you can move people emotionally to take action.
Yeah, video is definitely more costly for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the idea too, when a homeowner comes onto your site, they see themselves. And I think that goes back to what you were saying, where I see so many contractors, and after you said it, I just started thinking about it. #1 plumbing contractor in Austin, #1 landscaper, but that's all relative, right? Like, I don't know who voted you #1. It's kind of like an elf, really, when they're like, oh, we're the best coffee in New York. It's like, okay, everyone says that. What makes you really different? And it's that you're keeping your customer in mind. They come onto their website, they see themselves, and they see, like, for me, when I see before and after pictures, those are some of the most powerful photographs personally I see when I go onto, especially an interior remodeling website. Like, if I can see a transformation in a before and after picture within, just clicking very simply around on the website, I'm instantly drawn in. Because I think we have this HDTV mindset now, where it's like, we like to see the reveal.
Yes.
So having like something like that on a landing page, or even just like an area for testimonials, can be really helpful. Something that you said, which is so true, is having not only great copy on there, but showing what the process is. Because I think homeowners get lost in, okay, what's the next step? They're waiting for the contractor to call them back to schedule an estimate. But if you can say, hey, submit a form here, we'll reach out to you within 24 hours, and our tech will be out in 2 days from there to do the consultation. Homeowners are going to be like, okay, well, then I can go ahead and schedule that. So what are other ways on like contact forms that you guys tell contractors to really keep in mind to increase their conversion rates on, these contact us forms, let's say?
Yeah, great question. So I think again, think back to the homeowners, because I think to your point of #1 remodeler this or #1 roofer that, it comes with a lack of understanding of who the homeowner is that's going to be on your site. And so we had to understand that when homeowners are searching for a remodeler, the reason they would be on the site in the first place is that they have a problem that they want to solve. And typically they don't land on that website to click on a contact us button or a learn more button. They're really looking for a solution to that problem, and they want to have clarity around how they can get the solution to that problem. So through having a clear process laid out on your website and showing them what it's going to look like when they take action with that contractor is very important. But almost just even more important is the call to action. So a big challenge we see is a lot of contractors are using like contact us or learn more buttons when those are very vague, and they just leave so much uncertainty on the table, right? You don't know necessarily what's going to happen when you click on contact us, nor do you really even want to click on the contact us button anymore, because you don't know if you're going to be followed up with, you don't know if your phone's going to get blown up. But if you land on a website and it walks you through, like you just had mentioned, like the 4-step process of what it looks like to work with a contractor, and then the button says schedule your complimentary design consultation, and when they click that button, they land on a page that says, over this 45-minute in-home design consultation, we're going to take you through this exact process to really map out your dream home together and provide you with these specific resources or these next steps. But by giving them that simple, clear direction, and by labeling what's actually going to be taking place a little bit differently than the typical contact us or learn more, those vague types of call to actions, you'll dramatically increase the conversion rates on your website and in your contact us forms.
I love that being like very like and this is like a term that gets thrown around a lot, but like intentional, right? Like being very like purposeful with like your communication. And you know, as marketers, well, I think Sarah's more of a salesperson. I consider her a marketing person because she's on my team, but she's more sales. But I think it falls in both camps, where every interaction, which, like, not to put too much pressure on it, but it's like important, right? Like every line of copy that they read from you is important because it may be the last line of copy that they read from you. So it's, you know, every touch is important, and being purposeful with it, and thinking about, okay, so in the design world, you know, a design thinking, it's called like there's a stage called empathy, you know, or the empathetic stage, where it's not just like I want them to do this, but like what are they feeling in the moment when they interact with that piece? And I know it's like getting very philosophical right now, but so like if I'm creating like we just spoke about, like a video, right? Like, what is the mood of the person who is showing up to that video, who is clicking play on the video? Or like, what is the mood of the person who comes to my page? Why are they on that page, right? And like, let me be intentional with the way that I'm talking about my business, so they understand, like we said, where I'm going to be the solution to their problem. They're going to feel like they're taken care of, right? Because I think a lot of the contractors that we talk to, they all understand how important it is to take care of their customer, and they all take so much pride in the way that they do take care of their customer, right? And the website, your landing pages, you know, your whatever is an extension of the way that you're taking care of that person and that customer. And I think it's like, you know, it's like with relationships or anything, it's, you know, it's not just the way that you are transacting with someone, but it's like the long game, and the little things that really make a relationship blossom and bloom. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Obviously, you can tell I'm very passionate about this, but yes, I totally agree with you. Everything is important. I do have a very important question. So, in my years of small business B2B experience, a lot of the time I hear, I don't need a website, I have Facebook. I don't need a website. You know, I guess now millennial will be like, I have an Instagram. You know, like, why is it essential for a website to exist? Because it is an investment, and like I said, it is a time thing. You have to think about it. So why is it so important?
Yeah. I feel like this should be very, very obvious now, right? Where if you look at the numbers of how homeowners are engaging with contractors, doesn't matter what type of construction business you're running, so the majority of homeowners are going to go to the search engines to do research on your company, to find the best contractor in their area, to make sure they're making the right decision. It doesn't matter if they've heard about you or not, or even if they're being referred to you or not. those individuals are now still, a large majority are still going to go and do their own research and confirm some things with themselves before taking action. And so as soon as you go to Google, it doesn't matter if you are the very best contractor in your area. If you don't have somewhere where somebody can land on your website and look at the work you've done, what some homeowners are saying about you, what problem you solve for them, and if you don't have a website at all, you're missing out on so much business. You're leaving so much money on the table, because that's how people do business now, right? They do business by going online, doing their research. Doesn't matter if it's an Amazon low ticket product or if you're getting your kitchen remodeled, even more for the high ticket services, right? When they are going to get those things done in their home, they're going to do their research. So you need to have at least a one-page website that tells your brand story and the problems that you're solving for homeowners, and give them a way for them to reach out to you.
I also think it's important for referrals. I think a lot of contractors miss this, but even if you are mostly word of mouth, if my friend gives me a suggestion of someone who can come work on my house, the first thing I do is Google that company. It doesn't even matter if it's my best friend in the world. They're like, oh, I love working with him. I'm going to do a double check and see for myself. So even if you are primarily word of mouth, you want to make sure you have that landing page to give you credibility beyond just someone's suggestion.
I will say now, all these statistics are coming out about how like TikTok is becoming a search engine and Instagram is becoming a search engine. But to that, I still say like it's still important to have a website, because they will double check. Like it's not just like, oh, this guy's a great TikTok, I want to work with him.
I'm not going to buy something on TikTok and not click through to their website, because I feel like that's how you get scammed.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
Really easy. So you got to have that as just a credibility check and a way to pull people in. And I think, yes, it can be expensive, but I think it doesn't have to be. Like, it's good to make sure that you're very thoughtful about it. And I think Ben and Dago, you both pointed out the importance of copy, which actually should not be overlooked. You shouldn't just throw up a free Google site. You should think through it.
Yeah. But to that point, that's one point I was just going to make, is like, if you don't want to upfront spend the money on a company to come in and help you with your messaging and your copy and to build a website, a really high converting website for your business, there are so many different templates and so many different builders out there now that are so simple to literally just go in, make a couple edits, put your logo on there, and at least have just the foundations covered, right? So there's no longer really even like a valid excuse to not have a website of some sort, because you can get that done in 5 minutes if you wanted to. Of course, there's different levels to it, and it all matters, and the copy is very important, the messaging is very important. But at least if you don't have a website in 2022, you need to at least get something up there that's going to be a place where homeowners can know that you exist, they can see that you're an actual brand, and hopefully a place where you can capture their information so you can do business with them. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of a rocky road for you, I believe, going forward with how things are moving. So yeah, I just don't think there's an excuse anymore.
No, not at all. So I guess this is our final question, because we're almost at time, you know. But what are some like big mistakes that people do make when they are like, when a new business is trying to like build a brand identity or build, you know, their website? Like what are some big missteps? So our folks can, you know, they're like, okay, I shouldn't do that. Don't do that.
Definitely. Great question. So one of the first things is talking too much about yourselves. Like when you are talking just about yourself and how you're the best, and you're not speaking to that homeowner at all, like I know I've mentioned a bunch on here, you're missing the mark, and they're going to bounce off your website. They're not there to learn just about you or why you're the best. They're there to solve a problem. So speaking about the homeowners more than you're speaking about yourself is very important. The second biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes we see, is having way too much information or way too much text that people are obviously not going to ever read through, right? I know we've all, you land on a website and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like 8 paragraphs in the first header of the website. Like, I'm not even going to start looking into this company. That's just too much. So it's too much information, or even having like 20 tabs at the top of your website that are so unneeded. like the news and all these different things that really, the objective of the website, there's multiple objectives, but the core objective is to capture homeowners' information so you can get into a conversation with them about helping them with their home or their home improvement project. So too much information definitely kills it. And then one other thing that I mentioned earlier is having very confusing or just kind of random call to actions. So vague call to actions like contact us up in the top right corner, not even like in a button fashion, not even having a call to action at all, like literally having to search all over a website to try to find how you can reach that company is probably one of the most annoying things or number one reasons why someone would leave your site. So getting very clear on what that call to action or what action you want that homeowner to take, and then putting a button right in the center of the screen or working that through the website is really going to help you increase conversions. So those are 3 big mistakes we see.
That's huge. And it's interesting because I think, we talk about this and I think people are like, oh yeah, that's great. They're talking about, yeah, I totally get it, but I don't have time or whatever. Yeah. But I want to everyone who's listening, I want them to understand that like, you don't have to, there are more people that are going to be like that than aren't. So when you have an opportunity to go and do the extra thing for your marketing or go and like change your website or whatever, you are giving yourself a competitive advantage over everyone else. Because I think in the industry, sometimes it's like, and we talked about this before, I have word of mouth, I don't need this. Especially if you're like in a smaller area, more rural, or like a suburban exurb or whatever. So like I don't want to give too much information about myself. I'm in Austin. I'm in a suburb of Austin.
What's your address?
It's 123 Fake Street. And so I live on 123 Fake Street in I'll say Buda, Texas. And there aren't a lot of people who are in my area who can help me immediately, right? So it's like if you go the extra mile and you do this work on the internet, social media, whatever you want to do, you will get closer to the front of the line. And so and I only say this because I've been reading some stuff about like it's hard to build a business in smaller areas, or like you have to be in a big metro to really build a business to the level that it needs to be, that you want it to be. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think there are just ways to get to the front of the line if a homeowner's looking for help. And I think this is one of those really, really big things. So I just, that's my little, again, another soapbox, very preachy today. I've had a lot of coffee this morning. It's a Friday.
There we go. But, great days for extra coffee.
But I think it's so funny that you bring up the ton of copy stuff, because like I keep bringing up design. I'm in a design mindset. And I'm working a lot on websites, but it's funny. It's like, what the ultimate goal for any kind of content on your website is to like draw the reader to the ultimate conclusion that they need to hit that button and contact you, right? Mm-hmm. So make it skimmable, make it easy, like direct, like we spoke about, clear. And I think that's like really some of the secret sauce there.
And I think just asking yourself too, I love that. Like, what is the goal of me writing this paragraph on my website? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, what am I actually trying to accomplish? And I think that can help guide a lot of what you do, whether it's on your website or on your social media channels.
Yeah. And just to that point, it's like, try your very hardest to get into the mind of your homeowners that you're working with. And when you're looking at something like your website, try to get in the mind of your homeowners that you're working with and look at your website from their point of view, and actually see if you would read through or continue reading through the site or take action, or if you would just jump on and say, oh, this is just another contractor. Let's check out like 4 or 5 other ones to make sure we make the right decision. Yep. So there's so much that goes into it, but if you really simplify things, right? Talk about the problems that homeowners are dealing with that you can solve, make it super simple for them to take action with you, and just try to take them through this simple process of doing business with you and solving their problems. And it's going to go a long ways for your business.
Yeah. Would you buy from you? That is always the question. Like, would you buy from yourself? Mm-hmm. Ask yourself that. And I know your answer is always going to be yes, guys. I know it is. But really, would you buy from you?
Great. That's great stuff.
Oh, Ben, thank you so much. Like, this has been great. It's nice to be back in the podcast saddle with Sarah. It's been a little bit, and we're happy that you were able to join us. If you want to learn more about Ben and what his company does, contractorgrowthsystem.com. Go check it out. It's a great website. I spent a little too much time on it the other day learning about Ben and his company. But I mean, if you guys need that extra push, that professional touch, and that professional help, Ben does really, really good work. And you can take that from me, the guy who's obsessed with this stuff.
Really appreciate that.
It's good work. All right, Ben, thank you so much. And I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me on here again.